Okay, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about a very important but much neglected topic, natural gas. And we have two very interesting presenters here. And I'll, do you want to get closer? We have Mr. Ioannis, who is the country representative for the Trans-Adriatic pipeline system. And Mr. Tarbanis, who's filling in for Mr. Stefatos. He is the management consultant for the Hellenic Hydrocarbon and Energy Resources Management Company. So most of the discussion over the last days or two, when I just came from, it's a lot about net zero, the energy transition. But today we're going to talk about a primary fuel that's an essential element of energy security. I'll just make a couple of remarks about the U.S. experience. If you take a look at the United States, we have had a massive reduction in our carbon emissions. This has not come from the deployment of solar or wind. It's come almost entirely from the deployment of natural gas, which has been a competitive market alternative to coal. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. During the Obama administration, the administration published something called the Clean Power Plan. And that plan was a very intricate plan to reduce carbon emissions by making various policy adjustments, which would increase the price of coal and other constraints on how coal-fired power plants operated. But when they did the research and the analysis they published for the Congress and everyone, they found that the base case was actually so effective that the net benefit of the Clean Power Plan was quite small. And they said, why is this happening? And it was happening because there was such a surge and large supply of low-cost gas in the United States that market forces alone were driving out coal use. This is kind of a fight we're having in the U.S. a lot because there's a lot of environmental groups, people worry about net zero, who say, well, you know, we keep developing all this gas, particularly these LNG exports, right? But you know, LNG exports are very lumpy. They're going to have to be amortized over 20 or 30 years. And I think it's a very short-sighted view to think you can leap to the fuels of the future or the energy system of the future without natural gas. And one of the other things is how do we think about energy security? Now, the U.S. is now a net exporter of oil and gas. This is not the case for Greece, not the case for much of Europe, for almost all of Europe. But you think about as we enter the 50th anniversary of the Arab oil embargo, the energy security problem could actually be described as kind of a function of two or three features in the integrated world oil and gas market. One, a concentration of low-cost reserves in the Middle East, which means that production from this part of the region can be interrupted, imposing very large costs on major importing countries, or individual countries or individual producers can constrain output, get higher prices, and extract a lot of wealth. So we are not at net zero yet. We're not even well along the pathway. So gas is going to become a very important element and instrument and resource for the energy security of Southern Europe. So with that, I'd like to just make a couple of introductions here, and we're going to hear from, let's start first with Mr. Maris from the Trans-Adriatic pipeline system. We get a status report of where we are in the project, what kind of contribution it's making to Greece and Southern Europe, and what its sustainability is over time. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pugliaresi, and thank you all for coming. It's a very interesting forum. So, Trans-Adriatic pipeline. A few words for those who are not familiar with. The TAP pipeline is a natural gas interconnector that had started its commercial operations in 2020, end of 2020. It constitutes the last section of the Southern Gas Corridor that is bringing natural gas from the vast oil resources of Shah Deniz No. 2 from the Caspian Sea, the Azerbaijani region of the Caspian Sea, to Europe. The asset consists of 877 kilometers long pipeline connecting in Greece at Kipi Evros to the Trans-Anatolian Pipeline, TANAP, goes all through Greece to Albania, under the Adriatic Sea, and onshore to Italy when it connects to the Italian transmission system operator SNAM Rete Gas. In Greece, it connects with DESFA, the national TSO, at Nea Messimvria, where we have our exit point in Greece, the only exit point for the moment. An important milestone. Since October 2020, we are supplying Bulgaria with natural gas through our connection with the IGB, the interconnection Greece-Bulgaria. While the long-term capacity as it stands now is 10 BCM per year, the asset can be expanded to 20 BCM. So this is the maximum technical capacity that it can reach. TAP last January has triggered the first level of expansion, adding 1.2 BCM per year. After the first phase of the 2021 market test. So in total, TAP will be able to deliver from 26 onwards 11.2 BCM per year to Europe. Since the start of our commercial operations, and this refers to the energy security of Europe, we have delivered over 27.5 billion cubic meters of Caspian natural gas to Europe. Since February 2022, when the Ukrainian crisis started, TAP has been invited to support the energy security system of Europe by increasing the short-term capacity, so maximizing the parameters to the pipeline so that it can deliver short-term capacity to the maximum. This has been led to full capacity utilization to support exactly the crisis, the energy crisis in Europe. Last but not least, TAP contributes to Greece's new role as an energy hub in Southeastern Europe, especially in the light of the vertical corridor, which, if completed, will enable the bidirectional flows, gas flows between Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary. And was delighted to hear yesterday in this forum the intervention of the ambassador, the US ambassador to Greece, mentioning exactly this vision for Greece's energy role in the future. And with this, I conclude the first remarks. Thank you.
Let me ask a couple of questions. First, how is the gas price? Is it priced off of a European market, TFF? Are there long-term contracts or some variation of both?
Yes, as regards TAP, TAP has a tariff system. So tariffs are transparent, are let's say published in our website. We have long-term capacity and we have short-term capacity offered. The long-term capacity is 95% booked for 25 years by the initial shippers. So what we can offer to the market is the short-term capacity. This is 5% of the 10 BCM per year that we are offering and actually maximizing during the crisis.
And I presume it's very competitive with LNG.
It is competitive, but for commercial reasons, I prefer not to comment here.
And another question is that within the, at least the Southern European community on a political level, people, the policymakers have been very favorable towards this project, I understand. So you see continued support, at least political and investment support.
I see in Greece, I can talk about Greece more specifically, I don't see the reluctance we see in other countries regarding natural gas. Greek politicians and Greek audience, I would say, are more favorable to gas now because Greece was heavily reliant on fossil fuels, on lignite. Western Macedonia is a source of a rich source of lignite. We're trying to transition from that. So gas is considered a very friendly, environmentally friendly fuel now in Greece. So there is no opposition to this kind of projects. Of course, in Greece, we're talking about pipelines. We're not talking about production at this moment, but we will hear later about production. So as far as pipelines are concerned, we don't see any opposition to pipelines being around, let's say, Greek territory and creating a hub for energy transportation.
Great, thanks so much. Let's move on now to Ephemios, who is with the Hellenic Hydrocarbon and Energy Resources Management Company. And before we get started, one of the things I'm very interested in is there is a lot of potential for more gas development in the East Med, not just offshore Greece, but generally in the East Med. And if you think from an energy security point of view, that the development of those resources represents an important component of long-term energy security, particularly for Southern Europe. And I wonder if you have any. First, we'd like to learn a little bit about what you guys think about the potential is for more development. What kinds of constraints and opportunities are out there, and how should we think about the future of these resources?
For me, yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak and to the audience here and online. Yes, I think East Med right now is a very promising area. It has a unique advantage. It is situated very close to Europe, that needs a lot of energy. And I think that natural gas in particular can actually play even a very strong role as a unifying element between for the relations of these countries. Let's say we have the East Med gas forum right now with Israel, Egypt, Greece, Cyprus, and so forth, and other countries participating or observing. And I think there is a lot of potential for development. There are still some problems, and that's why some of the fields that have been discovered have not been yet developed. But I think there is a constant effort to overcome these issues. And the more fields are developed, hopefully also in Greece in the near future, we hope, then the more it will contribute to actually accelerating these development plans. Because I think all these areas, they feed off one another. Discoveries, let's say, in Egypt can be very beneficial to the future development of potential discoveries in Greece, or what's happening in Israel and Cyprus. Of course, it is related in terms of the development.
So do you think that with the Cypriots, that there is a deal there? I mean, I suspect we came close a few years ago to working things out with the Turks, but is there some potential for getting a resolution and getting the development to proceed?
Okay, this is a very complex issue that goes far beyond energy, of course, and I cannot speak on behalf of our Cypriot friends and so forth. I'm just saying that quite often, like we saw in the case of Lebanon and Israel, opportunities for cooperation in the fields of energy and economy can help improve also relations and overcome geopolitical issues. It's by no means enough, but it's definitely a factor that can help in that direction.
Do you have a perspective on how we should think about natural gas within the policies and the strategies for the energy transition?
Absolutely. Actually, we think that natural gas is a necessary element of the energy transition. And here I would like to point out that transition is a key word. It's not a switch from one energy system to a different one. And it has been widely accepted that basically natural gas is the bridge fuel to this energy transition. Actually, I was reading recently the 2023 World Energy Report that basically states that 82% of the world's primary energy needs are still covered by fossil fuels. And natural gas is definitely the cleanest of all these fuels. And it's something that will stay with us for the next 2-3 decades at least. And I think it's very, very important to do everything we can to develop these resources in order to have a stable energy system, to have security of supply, to basically balance the issues that we have with pricing. And of course, it will help fund a smooth energy transition. So revenues that can come from this type of sources, but also the side, let's say, industries that can be developed in terms of supply chain and ports and so forth, can help other industries related to energy, let's say offshore wind and so forth.
So, and if you go offshore for Greek waters, which are very prospective, how does the government treat development? Is it an auction system? Is it with a bonus bid, a production sharing agreement? How does someone compete for the development of those resources?
Yeah, so we have had the licensing rounds in the past, so several licensing rounds, and now currently we have 5 active offshore blocks where in exploration stage, and they are basically lease agreements. So initially, when they were given to the lessees, they had to pay a signature bonus, and they pay, of course, surface fees every single year. And then once they hopefully start production, let's say in the future, if we have discoveries, then there will be, of course, a percentage of the revenue to the royalties, basically, to the state, plus tax revenue. There is a specific tax revenue, both for the state and for the regional governments.
So these revenues go into the general fund for just supporting the Greek national.
Correct. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, another issue is on the transition. I'm quite familiar with. We have a lot of active research and deployment of new hydrogen technologies, and I'm sort of interested in how Adriatic is looking at how hydrogen might fit in, what you see the timeline for its use, and what kinds of programs you guys have underway.
Yes, thank you. Before answering this question, I would like to reiterate what has been said before. I believe that there is no lack of consensus that natural gas will play a key role in the energy transition in general. It's the energy trilemma. As we said, natural gas presents a very convincing answer to this energy trilemma as it stands now. With the technologies that we're having now, natural gas is the solution, especially in areas of Southeastern Europe where these areas have been very heavy fossil fuel dependent. I'm going to give an example. Electricity generation, gas-fired plants can cover the intermittent renewable power, but at the same time, carbon capture can help to reduce emission and to have a zero impact on the carbon footprint. So natural gas is there and will be there. I think the distinction between molecules and electrons, we need to have both. Molecules will play a significant role in the transition, especially in the hard-to-abate industries. You cannot use electricity in steel, in shipping, for example. We are talking about decarbonization of shipping. We'll use molecules for that. Green gases, yes, but molecules still. As regards, and this relates to the hydrogen molecule, the EU has heavily supported the transition to a hydrogen economy. Of course, the economy is not there. We're trying. EU is trying. I know that there are auctions in November regarding the first, let's say, set of production, pilot production of hydrogen in Europe. We're going to see how that goes, but there are no regulations at the moment. There is no a wider hydrogen economy, and of course, the value chain of, for example, pipeline gas needs to be, of course, decarbonized. So what TAP is doing, apart from contributing to the energy transition through initiatives such as energy efficiency or electrification of the compressor stations and the compressor units, TAP is investigating the possibility to transport hydrogen in the future as a blend with natural gas. TAP's primary purpose was to transport the gas from the Caspian Sea, so natural gas, to secure Europe and to provide an alternative route for gas. At the same time, in the future, and combined with expansion, we are investigating and we're conducting laboratory studies to see the resilience, to investigate, assess the resilience of the pipeline to transport hydrogen. Hydrogen has specific physical properties, chemical properties that create issues to existing pipelines if the pipeline is not 100% hydrogen ready, and TAP is not. I think all pipelines, new pipelines, are constructed to be hydrogen ready. I know DESFA is building these pipelines. However, TAP is not. We need 2 years, more than 2 years, to evaluate and assess the results of the lab experiments, and then we will be able to say at which percentage of volume of hydrogen can be transported in our pipeline. Now, the big question is there hydrogen to transport? We hope that it will be. It will contribute. It is maybe it is the solution of the future, but we're not quite there yet.
So the other question I have is, if you think about energy security, one aspect of it is to have some redundancy in the system, some system diversity, not just fuels, but transportation. And so I'd be curious on your perspective on how Adriatic pipeline contributes to the stability of the European pipeline network. I mean, what happens now? I mean, now that this system is in place, we must have some better redundancy for Southern Europe in the distribution of gas, and if there are disruptions for any reason. I'd be curious how you guys look at that.
Yes, for example, most of the natural gas is delivered to Italy. So for sure, Italy now has diversified sources of supply. I'm not talking about Greece because it's clear. Greece has diversified because of DESFA, Revithousa, etc. Its sources of supply. It has the FSRU, the new FSRU that will start very soon in Alexandroupolis. We are delivering to Bulgaria. I think 1/3 of the Bulgaria exports are related to TAP's exports. Of course, this IGB will be connected also to DESFA and the new FSRU of Alexandroupolis. So being there as TAP, for sure, it creates not only let's say, a pragmatic contribution to energy security, but also a psychological one. Because I said the short-term auctions that through TAP can provide new delivery on demand of additional gas, marginal on the one hand, but in case of expansion, this will be very significant.
That's very interesting. One thing I'd like to point out is that there's actually a chart on our website. People don't realize the importance of gas to food production. If we try to feed the world just on non-fossil fuel fertilizer, we would only have enough fertilizer to support about 3 billion people on the planet on a mixed plant diet, not any meat. So we actually need, I don't think a lot of us understand all the petrochemical, fertilizer, important uses of natural gas. And it's important to have a realistic and pragmatic view of how we develop, treat, and support these fuels over time. I'd like to get back to this offshore development and gas development in the East Med. Is there, if we were to ask you guys sort of to say, okay, what should the governments be doing? Is there something different they should be doing to provide a long-term, stable investment for more gas development in the East Med? I think actually this is a security issue even many defense planners in the U.S. would be interested in hearing about.
Yes, true. I think the governments have done quite a bit, at least recently, let's say. With recent events, a lot of countries have realized the need for natural gas and for energy security. The proof is, again, as I said, that there are these transnational fora, like EastMed, Gas Forum, and so forth. Specifically for Greece, but for any country, actually, I think that it is very important to have a clear message in terms of for the investors for what they can expect when they come and they plan long-term investment. And I think we do have this here in Greece, and we are very happy for it at HEREMA. And I think that's why our investors have actually answered this, and they have actually committed and done the work, and that's why we have had a big acceleration in our exploration program. I mean, basically, in a bit over a year, we had 7 seismic surveys. We have practically finished with the offshore seismic surveys in the active exploration blocks, and we had 150% increase in the minimum expenditure that was required by the investors. So we are very happy, and I think they see the potential, of course, because when you're investing, you do it when you see there is potential, but also when you realize that there is an environment that is positive for your investment, and there is basically.
So I also presume that these offshore gas fields require a lot of upfront money, a lot of upfront capital.
Absolutely.
So what kind of life or timeline do you, when you develop a project, you say, look, this project's got to be, we have a 20-year timeline, a 30-year time. What sort of things are the investors looking for?
Exactly. This is the timeline that we're talking about. So they do need the possibility to see in the future that these investments will still be supported, correct? So you start with some exploration work where your chances of finding something are actually quite low. And there are more chances than otherwise that you will put a lot of money that you will never get back. Besides all the desktop studies and so forth, just doing seismic surveys is tens of millions. And then when we're looking at offshore drilling in deep water, like in Greece, you might be looking close to 100 million for one well. Let's say maybe not quite, but in that order, tens of millions. So we're talking about a lot of money. And then, of course, once you hopefully make a discovery, then you will need more wells in order to delimitate it. And then you need a lot of money in order to develop the field. So this is a big investment. And until you are sure that you have an economic deposit, you might end up with nothing. I mean, if you have 15% chance of success or 20%, it's already considered a good percentage in this business. So it's a very capital-heavy industry.
So I presume one advice we would give the governments who are holding these assets is we want a stable, understandable fiscal regime, and we want to have some expectation that will stay in place for a long time.
Correct. Yes, this is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So this is,
and we do have it in Greece because the lease agreements are laws that have been passed through the Greek parliament. So every lease agreement is a law.
Very interesting. So we're down to our last 5 minutes or so. I'd like to open it up to the audience for questions. I think what's very interesting to me about this whole discussion is that you might say gas is back, but I don't think it ever went away. And but I think it's getting more. It's important that it starts to get a high level attention and political support. That's not the case everywhere in Europe. I can tell you, even the U.S., we still have concerns that we're producing too much gas or exporting too much gas. But we know that we have the reserves. We have massive reserves in the U.S. And these reserves can produce large supplies of gas, not just for the Western Hemisphere, but for world LNG markets for the next 30, 40 years. So with that, how about we open it up to if there are any questions from the audience? Okay, so in the last, I guess what I'd like to do is we have about a few minutes left. That if either one of you would like to make some concluding remarks on maybe advice to the audience or even to your governments on what we should be doing going forward, I'd like to hear that.
Well, advice I wouldn't say, but as a concluding remark, I think it has become clear that when we plan correctly and we have the right strategy, we reap the benefits in the long term. And this is a case of the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, in the sense that some people envisioned this pipeline as an alternative route for natural gas, and the time came when it was necessary for Europe, the stability of the energy system. So what's next for TAP is capacity expansion. We're looking forward to it. We have a market test, 2021 market test, because capacity expansion is triggered through market tests, so there is no government intervention or other parameters. I would say it's purely commercial. It's purely demand and supply. So we have a market test running, 2021 market test, the second phase of which will be launched very soon. And I believe that in the first Q of 24, we will have some results. We will see if there will be another capacity expansion that will provide some more BCMs to Europe. If not, we will have another window, the market will have another window of opportunity end of Q2, where again there will be open the 2023 binding phase of our market test, where we will again require shippers to provide the capacities, request for capacities. So if this will be successful, we will have a pipeline of almost 20 BCM per year providing energy to Europe, with the benefits that are all very now known to every expert in the field. Thank you.
It's very interesting. Do you have some final comments?
Yes, a couple of things. In terms of our progress, as I said, we're very happy. 2024 will be a critical year. We are expecting quite a few decisions about the drilling decisions. And we hope that by 2025, we'll have the first offshore drilling in Greece. So this is something to look forward to. And then I would like to reiterate that basically natural gas is not contrary to the transition. And the proof is actually that we at HEREM, we are working on various areas that are covering all this, the transition and the gas. For example, CO2 storage, basically CCS in general. We're responsible for that, and we are already working on maturing the first storage site in Greece, in Prinos, which is a almost depleted oil field, the only one producing in Greece right now. And of course, there is offshore wind. We're responsible for the national plan for offshore wind, basically defining the areas where this will be developed. And this is another big project, let's say, important for the energy landscape in Greece, because it requires a lot of work, again, a lot of investment, and a lot of other industries related to that, supply chain, ports, and infrastructure, and so forth. And we need to work in parallel on all this. It is very important for us and for the region in general.
So I'd like to thank both of you. It was just a very interesting discussion. I learned a lot, and that's important. And so with that, I think we'll adjourn this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.